I am now live. That is my dog. And he, ooh, Percy, come on. Give a woman a hand. We are, well, this is 50. I'm Alexa Hampton, and I am speaking to Kevin Isbell.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah.
Good to see you.
I've got this like propped up on all kinds of things.
Yeah,
Hi,
you don't want to see what's
how
going
are
on
you?
behind the camera to make this all happen.
How are you? Good to
I'm
see you.
I'm good. Likewise. How are you?
I am good though. I have to throw him his ball.
Entertain the dog while you. Okay.
Yeah, he's gotten a little touchy. How are
Uh-oh.
you? Where are you?
I'm in Los Angeles in my home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I see a little of it?
Sure, it's all behind me.
I know. Okay. Well, in the
Yes.
spirit of 52 weeks of design,
Yes.
my favorite thing to know
Okay.
is how a person got started and what that, like what were your parents like? Where did you go to school? I know where you've had some of your jobs. So, like, how
Yes.
did the itch come about?
In retrospect, the itch was always there, right?
Yeah.
I just didn't know it. So my first degree was in business management and finance.
Not a bad thing. Not a bad
No,
thing.
it's not. It served me well. But I joke that degree was for my parents. And so I can remember avoiding finance finals and reading like interior design textbooks or AD or whatever. And it never really clicked. So then I moved to San Francisco and I started my, I was in a management program for Westin Hotels. And it just didn't feel like the right fit. And I kept wanting to try.
Were you just like, wow, this is going to be the rest of my life?
100%.
Yeah, you were like, help!
Yeah. So I went back to school and I got a degree in interior architecture and design in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so that's when, but looking back, I mean, I would redecorate my room. And your questionnaire, I said that my childhood room was like the love child of a Joanne Fabrics and a Devo.
Actually, I wanted to ask you how old you are because I had Adamant posters everywhere. I mean,
I'm 27.
You're 27.
I'm 27,
okay,
but I got in
on
the
same age.
No, I'm 52. 52.
Okay.
53.
I'm coming for you.
Yeah. No, Adamant was my thing. Oh my God. So my room was half Adamant and half like Michael Jackson, Duran, and a few of those others. But so at one point I remember in maybe junior high, I asked my parents, can I redo? And we had all my furniture they had received furniture as a wedding gift. I guess that was something common that happened back in the day. So that got passed down to me, and it was like a suite. And so I said, can I paint it? They're like, sure, do whatever you want with it. And so I just color blocked the room. So like my headboard was like purple, the side table was red, and then I swagged.
What an MTV moment.
Very much so. It was the high 80s, right? And then I swagged polka dot, black and white, giant polka dot, just fabric swags over. Just normal, like Joe Durso blinds, but not Joe Durso, right? Just suburban, just horizontal blinds. And so that was sort of my teenage, bedroom with then every inch of wall covered in posters.
Do your parents still live there?
Yes.
What does your room look like now?
It is my father's office.
Okay.
Yeah. He turned it
into. Because it'd be fun to see that old version.
Yeah. No, that old version is gone. That furniture, I think after it became like purple, green, orange, and red, they were like, yeah, out of here. Take it to college with you. I was like, no, thank you.
I have no idea who I want to be in college.
Right, exactly.
So how did you get from that coast to the East Coast?
Much like this last move to LA, there just comes a point in life where that the next chapter needs to begin, and it needs to sort of, I don't know, be a big move.
Sure.
I was in Ohio. I knew I didn't want to stay there. My good friend from college moved to San Francisco like a year before me. So it's easy to kind of, follow that
Yeah.
and just sort of getting out of Ohio. If you spend any considerable amount of time, you would appreciate that.
I've as the daughter of a Midwesterner, I do have a great fondness for the Midwest
Yeah.
because you can see so many beautiful things. It's not like here's a Tudor mansion, here's a French chateau.
Right.
There's continuity, which I find really
for sure.
exciting.
And I'm very happy to be from Ohio. It was a great upbringing. I had a great childhood. The doors weren't locked. You played kick the can until the sun went down. All of that kind of stuff that is of the time, obviously, but something that maybe you couldn't do in Los Angeles or New York or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah.
So
it was good.
You moved to San Fran, and who'd you work for there?
Orlando Diaz-Esqui.
Who I love.
Yes, he's fabulous.
He's just like a total one of a kind.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. We had our sort of fountainhead Clinique girl straps or what? Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. It was fun, but that is what really ignited my love of hand drafting. So I still to this day hand draft everything. And so that was good. So I started there as an intern, and then I stayed on after and stayed there I was there about maybe 2 years. And then it was like, okay, I'm itching to move. And the thing was at the time, and still is, San Francisco and New York are about the same cost, but they roll the streets up at about 10 o'clock at night in San Francisco. So I wanted something a little bit more, more lively. And if I wanted to be in design seriously, I felt like New York was the place to be at that time. So
you have to kind of listen to your compass, right? Yeah,
exactly. So I wanted to be where design was and where the bulk of designers were working. So off I went. I loaded up a car, gave away everything I owned, and drove across country.
Dude, that's like you usually only hear that when people decide to become like movie stars.
Yeah.
Well, I am Adam Driver leaving Indiana to Adam Driver
exactly.
But so that's so exciting. Was it a shock
fun
to you to live here for then?
It wasn't, because I was like post-college, you're in your 20s, you can handle anything at that age, right?
Good.
So I lived in a friend's apartment behind a sheet in their living room at first, because it was like, just until I crashed, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Like you just do what you need to do and you don't care, because you're young,
it's
dumb.
An adventure.
It was great. So I was in the Lower East Side, East Village, when I first moved there, and then I sort of moved around. Yeah.
What do you think that all people who are starting in their design career should know or should do?
They should absolutely 100% work for someone they admire and learn. You get a lot of these people now who have like 75,000 Instagram followers and 3 days of experience in a real world who are now designers. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you learn how to deliver a project on time, deliver it on budget? How do you
plan? How do you do it on time?
You just have to crack a good whip, On time is a little bit harder now, obviously, but but
I can't imagine creating that whole ecosystem from scratch. As so many people do, hats off.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that can go wrong.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that all of those learning moments happened on someone else's dime. You know what I mean? Like when the custom piece didn't fit in the front door of the townhouse and you have to crane it over the house because you didn't take that angle that when it tips this way, I'm glad that was not on my dime. That was on someone else's dime, Because ours rigging, as you know, is not the cheapest way to move something into a house.
No. I'm having a problem like that in my own apartment, which is so annoying when you make a rookie mistake,
right? And
it's you're no longer a rookie.
Yeah,
but conversely, I'm glad it happened with my apartment, and not somebody else's.
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So, how long were you here before you moved back
Just shy of 18 years.
I mean, West.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like a lifetime.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was, I went through my 30s into my 40s, got married, all of that, and so
Yeah.
it was just a time for a new beginning and a new change.
And your husband's Italian, right?
Correct.
Is he Italian from Italy?
Oh yes.
That's so great.
And they're all on here somewhere. Ciao, mama. Ciao. Right. All the Italian. Your analytics are going to be very high in Italy right now.
So did you meet him here? Was the romance
Met him in
born
New York. Yeah. I snagged him right off the plane.
You got to. You got it, man.
Exactly.
They get taken up fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What does he do? Why was he coming to New York?
He was coming to New York just because, it's New York, and Italians have this really love affair with New York City, and America in general, but New York City in particular, they have a big love affair with. So he was going, similar to me, he was following a friend from college. He studied a year at UCSB, and he met other Italians at UCSB, which is interesting. And so they moved from Santa Barbara, he moved back home, and then he joined them in
Okay, so you also had this sort of West Coast connection with him as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And the topography of California is very Italian, right? So you've got the hills, you've got the water. So oddly, even though we're further away from home, he feels closer to home.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. What does he do?
He actually is my business manager. So he runs the business for me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
No fights,
but it's
ever?
Good. Oh, of course there's fights. I mean, it's just life.
I told my
but
kids
nothing
that thing.
big.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
I told my kids that thing about how everybody wants to have 3 kids. One's a doctor, one's a lawyer, one's an accountant, because those are the 3 professions that you need absolute trust for.
Right.
So it is great that you had an advocate for you within your own business.
Yes, absolutely. And his skill set is so different than mine, but they're really complementary because he's very detail oriented. He's very, meticulous about those types of details. I'm meticulous about like upholstery details and curtain details and those kinds of things, where he makes sure that the contracts are good. He deals with all of that with the clients and the money, and I just get to make it pretty. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm constantly talking to people about how it's important for us to be aware of what's happening in our business.
Absolutely.
But if you don't love that side of it, it is great when somebody else can do it and enjoy it. Like I've had colleagues over the years who get really excited for a day of paperwork.
Oh wow.
And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm excited about.
I had an assistant years ago when I was at Jeffrey Bilhuber who loved filing, and she said as a kid her parents, she had like a 3-hole punch, and she would pretend file all day as a child. So she really loved that. Yeah. So there are people that enjoy that.
Yeah, and it's important that they find us and we find them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in your case, marry them.
Yes. I got a cook, I got a business manager, I got a language coach, all of that. Yeah. Fun.
How do you think, I love your interiors. I think they're beautiful. I know that you love the details, and the details are amazing.
Thank you.
How much has your style changed in the past 20 years?
Oh, a lot. A lot. So 20 years is basically me from college to now, right? So plus or minus. In college, John Pawson was my god. Minimal. I wanted and I loved that at first, just sort of the simple geometry of it. Mm-hmm. Then I started to work for Orlando, and I was like, oh my God, a paneled library? This is really luxurious, Right. And so I think my style is it's been informed by those people. And the surroundings, now I'm feeling more California, sort of textural, a little bit less color than normal for me. And so I think my style has changed. It's matured a little bit,
Yeah.
you know. And I think
What
with
are
Jeffrey,
some of the through lines that like this is you? It's always going to be.
always like my use of pattern and sort of my mastery of pattern mixing, color for the most part, and then details like drapery trims and welts and all of those. You're going to see that in every project. Some are going to be more pronounced than others, but for the most part,
I know.
those.
What a departure from where you started.
Yes.
From John Pawson to that.
Yeah. Well, but I was like, you know, in school, and you're in architecture school, so you just want purity. And I think when you're
and
handwriting,
max.
yes, yeah, exactly. But then I realized that it's more important how you experience the space and how then a lot of the way, you know, architecture gets very caught up on sort of rhythm and all of that other stuff, which you need, obviously, but it's more how the human experiences the room that is more interesting to me, I think, and how you can make it cozy and all of that. Yeah, I enjoy that part a lot.
How do you articulate that to the homeowner? There's a lot of kind of like faith they have to have, right?
Yeah.
Because
I'm yes, agreed. I'm lucky that I'm blessed with a lot of repeat clients. So I don't have a ton of clients. I have a lot of clients who have done a ton of homes for.
Yeah, which is
so which is
they
helpful.
also they know the stressors.
Right. You just have to walk them through it and sort of show them why, you know, like for instance, now I'm doing a new construction beach house in Sullivan's Island off of the coast of Charleston. And the beach house that we're replacing is an old cottagey, you know, house. I was like, this home is going to be shot out of a cannon and it's going to be brand new. So we need to bring in the texture so that the
counterpoint.
Yes, the counterpoint, all the new, and you're already used to living in this sort of not threadbare, but threadbare. You know, just sort of.
Not to say threadbare.
But right, yes, exactly. You know, and so you just have to sort of walk them through it. And luckily, I have humor, so I can tell people.
Yes, you do.
I can shoot people down a little bit without them
being hurt,
feeling it. Maybe. Yeah.
I remember once hearing that you can't say, if you say no to a client too much, it will break their spirit.
Right.
Which I thought was an interesting layer to the process, to have to be aware of how much negative articulation one speaks, because
right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you want them to feel like you're supportive, obviously, of them.
Yes, yeah. You have to say like, oh, that's a really good idea, but I don't think that will work here because of this, and this. Right? Or, oh, I like that, but maybe that would be better suited in the nanny's room. Or, you know, like something, you know.
Or on your street corner.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Or give it to the garbage man,
The tax write-off on this is really beneficial if you donate it.
Yeah.
You know. So
have you ever made any big mistakes for yourself, like big expensive mistakes?
For myself?
Because I in this apartment, I did the original, what is our bedroom, so the main bedroom.
Right.
I did it, and it in the last version of this apartment, and it just fell flat, and I had to redo the whole thing almost immediately.
Yeah.
And it was all good intentions. I was trying to reuse things, and it just didn't work. And I thought, I cannot believe that I just did this after, you know, like I know these lessons.
Yeah. I have a little bit in that regard. I would say my last apartment in New York, where I decided, oh, I just want a neutral shell of, and then I got in and I was like, wah, wah. You know, it was sort of like, oh, it's not what neutral. It's not what I do for clients, and yet I tried to do it for myself, and it just, I mean, in the end, it was lovely, but it just didn't 100% feel like me.
Yeah, and you moved. Case in
point.
And then I moved.
Yeah, you get better light in LA than in Gramercy Park.
True, but that is a nice place to live.
Yeah.
So how many people do you have working for you? What's your office like?
The office currently is just the two of us, and then we fluctuate up and down as needed. You know, but right now, you know, I couldn't bring assistants to LA, and then COVID and all of that. So right now, it's just the two of us.
That must have been so sad losing those like assistants and colleagues that you'd had for years.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a challenge, but right now it's fine, and we're cranking it out and doing. And I like being that involved, right? That's one thing you
and
learn.
it like reacquaints you with every blessed thing in the project.
And I love the obsession of those details, and so I like to be able to be sunk in it. You know, it's one thing when you work for other people, you learn as you go what models work for you and what don't. So my last, you know, I was design director for Bilhuber, which is a huge firm, cranking out a lot of projects, and I just knew I didn't want that. You know, I knew I wanted to race each project and sort of obsess over everything, and it's kind of like giving birth for me in a weird way. I have no experience with birth, but I
was going to point that out.
Right. I have no experience with it, right? I've seen it on TV. I don't know if that helps. But, you know, so it is that process to the point where when it's done, I actually go through a period of postpartum depression. I just get like, oh, all of a sudden it's like these people who were in my life like constantly are now sort of not, and the project and everything. And so I do get a little bit nostalgic.
And it's also like you've lived in that house, like just even during, like you were dreaming about it the whole time you were working on it. Then you're practically living there when you're installing it.
Correct.
And then you have to kind of loose it into the wild.
Yeah. I mean, I just finished this project at 220 Central Park South. Mm-hmm. And the housekeeper still call me like, where is and I'm like, okay, go into the laundry room, third drawer at the bottom. That's where you're going to find, you know, this, that, or whatever. You know, so I enjoy that.
What don't you enjoy about our business?
What don't I enjoy?
And if there's nothing, don't sweat it.
No, there's some, but it's adjunct. I don't love how much social media has become so instrumental, and it in a lot of ways can usurp talent, for lack of a better word. You know, and so I don't.
Should I hang up immediately?
What's that?
I should hang up immediately.
No, please. I mean, so for me, I don't love that aspect of it, but it's reality and it's 21st century living, and that is what it is. Just the sheer amount of agony it takes to get like a piece of fabric made into a sofa, and then the sofa got on, you know, into the house. Like sometimes that kind of stuff is like, really, like how did that slip through the cracks, or how did they drop that part of the ball, you know? But
or how did that become the focus of all of my efforts when it's supposed to be creating beauty?
Right.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I love.
Yeah, it keeps us grounded.
I love, exactly. But I'm also really good at that. I do kind of like when those things at installations come up that you have to immediately figure out, okay, now what's the workaround on this? What's the resolve? What do you do? I've had to cut entire doors out of a home to get the furniture in, because we switched from French doors that open this way to hurricane-proof sliders. So you went from a 60-inch opening to a 27-inch opening, and hurricane-proof. I just thought we were going to click the sliders out, but no, to make it hurricane-proof, no.
Sorry.
There must be a squirrel.
Here?
Maybe seeing it out the window. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I think he smells our neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole, it's Diane Carnevale is saying she's had to remove the door to get a couch in. That is like the one most annoying thing about our job.
Yeah. Yeah. And New York in particular is great for that because
yeah. Here I'm just looking at Angela Pickens, and we've got our somebody wants me to put Percy. Oh no. Okay.
Percy putting in his 2 cents.
Yeah, Percy putting in his 2 cents. He doesn't agree with anything that we're saying.
No. He's a minimalist, clearly.
Did you always want to be your own boss?
No. I didn't.
No. There's something nice about having a boss, but it just kind of doesn't work that way forever.
Right. It doesn't. I loved being part of a team and, part of a bigger picture for the longest time. And I was comfortable. So that's probably the only reason why I would say I didn't dream of it, because I was comfortable. I was doing great work in great firms. And, 2008, it happened. So what are you going to do? So 2009, I found myself without a job. And so it was time. And it just all sort of fell into place.
Isn't that lovely?
It is. It is. At the time, I wasn't happy about it.
No, I'm sure. It's just like, anything that immediately precedes something lovely is probably not lovely, because you distinguish it as a different period of time.
Right.
But I think being your own boss, it's like I hope with my kids that I don't make them feel like they need to be the boss.
Right.
Like it's fine if you want to work for somebody, and it's fine if you want to run it. Like all pots have a lid.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But yes, we're never bossless because we have the homeowners, which is what my husband would always be like, "Oh, will you work for yourself?" And I'm like, "No, I don't.
Yeah.
I work for the delightful people who."
Right.
Who
allow me to to do this. Yeah.
Now, how much of the service industry part of your job takes over?
Well, it's interesting because I never thought of that before. But when we finished this project at 220, there was so much.
And I'm with you with like that elevator. You have to schedule so far in advance to get in there.
Yeah.
Easy.
Well, I was up in the villas. I wasn't among the commoners in the tower. But yes, it is like, oh my God, they need like the blood type of every person coming in. It's insanity. But in that regard, everything was done. Before they came, we had rotated out the closet. All of the winter clothes were moved into secondary storage. Every detail was done. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, I can see how your hospitality, how that ties in so beautifully, because the flowers, everything was there. The curtains were steamed, Frances Bailey is styling for me. The whole, everything is done, and that is a very hospitality, I think, kind of mindset. If a VIP was coming.
Everything we're doing is to make somebody happy.
It's exactly.
An unhappy homeowner is just like a dagger in the heart.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We're there to make their life easier, to make their life more comfortable, and to make their life more beautiful. So they should be able to walk in at the end and it just be absolutely perfect.
I had one project where I don't remember what went wrong at the end. I think there was I know that there was a tub that needed to be swapped out, and it elongated the process. And I remember the homeowner, the wife, saying to me, she was irritated and frustrated, and she's like, I just want to have that experience of the new apartment. And when the way she put it just really resonated with me. Yeah. And I was like, if I knew that somebody had worn a shirt I just bought before I got to wear it, it's like somehow less joyful. And I think in the last few years, my husband's calling me. The last few years, I've been so curious to talk to people about how they give the house over to the client, because a lot of times the budget for the objet and for oftentimes there seems to be a pause.
Yes.
But you really need that last bit to make it, to seal it.
Yes. Yeah.
To cure it.
I try to get it worked into the budget in the beginning, like just an allocation. You know, we're going to allocate X amount to.
We're gonna allocate a shit ton of money.
Well, that's the problem. When you really start to add it up, it is, you know, but that without that layer, it's kind of like, where are we at, Blanche? Like, what is this? But installations for me are very personal, and they are very intense, but they are very important. One thing is, a lot of what we do is theater, right? In that, so when they walk in, it just needs to be perfect. And I am never there, ever. They come into the home alone. No, they pay to come into that house finished, not for me to be Decorina and taking all the accolades and walking them through the house. That comes later. You know, like, the moment they paid for was to be able to walk in.
I'm surprised you have such, that you're so decided about it. I love, like, this is a new thing for me to hear.
It's in my contract. It's in my contract even that, one, the client can be nowhere near their home for the last 2 weeks of the process, period. And this I stole from Jeffrey.
This is genius.
And so it's in the contract. The last 2 weeks are mine. You go. We'll schedule it around your children's vacations. You know, when you're at the beach house, whatever. 6 p.m. on the 5th, you can come. It'll be done. And it is. So, but like I said, I go through hell and high water to get it done. We're like this Nantucket house, right?
And always something terrible happens.
Of course.
Something crazy and unforeseeable.
Yes.
Always happens.
Yes. I've had trucks break down with the entire contents of homes where we had to offload it on 75 or whatever. You know, we've had just anything you can imagine has happened. And it's how you handle that in the moment that really counts. Yeah.
It does. I think that's the only thing that I wish we got to experience. You know, obviously we want to, we're the authors of our own interiors.
Right, of course.
It would be such a great experience for us just to, you know, to know the exact feeling that we want to convey.
Right.
When we do it. So I love that you're not there. So when do you just like stress out until you hear from the next day? So
usually it's
like
never the next day.
Night.
It's usually like, if I say come at 6 o'clock, usually by 7:15 I've got the call, you know, or sometimes it's immediate. Like, I've had tears, I've had everything. So
tears are wonderful.
Yeah, they are. They are. That's when I know I did my job, because it hit you in the emotion, right? So that you really connected with the I and so that's when I know.
It really reflects them.
Right.
Somehow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. It's fun. But it's a lot of work. We have had, oh shit, they're coming up the front drive. And like all of us like running out the side. Like, I remember this was with Jeffrey, this was in Southampton, and everyone is like, hurry. We're running out the side, you know, service door as they're pulling in, because it's like, no, I don't want to ruin the illusion. Right. Yeah. So it's fun. But I mean, the candles are lit, the music is on, so the doors open, and it's like you're walking into the most fabulous, you know, like cocktail party. But it's your home.
So at the end, your process is incredible theater, and it's amazing, and you're catering. How do you choose your clients? Like, are there certain, I mean, obviously not every, you know, we need to work, and we're so grateful for people who hire us. But what is your sense of what the ideal client is?
Well, the ideal client is someone who understands my worth and understands that in this universe, I'm the master of this particular universe, right? And just like they are the master of their universe, and that they can recognize and respect that. That's really helpful. Decisiveness. I don't care if it's a no or a yes, but whatever it is, it needs to stay that way. Not 3 months from now that yes becomes a no, right? So that's never going to happen. you know, and just people who will allow me to take them on this journey.
Yeah.
That's,
I like the way you're describing it. It's so not work a day. It's bigger.
yes. Yeah.
It's bigger and juicier.
Because it's such an intimate process to be designing a home for someone, right? And so the relationship has to be there. The connection between the client and I has to be there to some extent, right? None of them are my best friends. Some of them have become good friends of mine, but it's really about that connection for me with them, and that we mutually respect each other and our input.
And that your team, Trudy Croc is writing trust. Yes, absolutely. There has to be
for
just
sure.
that, because I don't know if you have this happen to you ever, but when a potential client or a client says, well, I don't want to work with that markup because it incentivizes you to get more money. And I'm like, that's not how I think at all.
Exactly.
If I had the time and the mathematical skill to even,
right.
It's funny because it rings no bells. I'm like, no, don't, not at all.
Of course not. And would that same person go to a restaurant and ask them what their markup was on the garlic that they put in the mashed potatoes?
No. And I'm not tattling on a client. It's just like sometimes you'll have a business person who like that's how they think, and it really is just a different brain.
Right. It is for sure.
And I like our strange little malfunctioning brains. Well,
at the end of the day, we're artists, we're creatives, right? Mm-hmm. So at least for me, I'm not linear.
And we are people pleasers.
Yes. At the end of the day, I just want the client happy at the end of the day. Yeah. That's it. And I want to do beautiful work. I want to do work that I'm proud of, and I want work that they are proud to be in. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, that's really all I want. I just want to create beauty.
Yeah. I'm totally with you. So how is you were about to tell me a story about Nantucket.
Oh, that was the hurricane proof where I had to put out, and then once it got put back in, I had to reshingle the side of the house. But all of that was done before that, like 6 p.m.
And you didn't hit any wires or anything?
No, because all we had to do was just cut the inset frame, cut it out of the wall, put it aside, move the furniture in, and then put it back in. Because of the access, the lower level family room bar and all of that, you really had to access from the side yard, which was these French doors that got moved to sliders.
I will say, in my fantasy life, I know you're going to be in Tuscany with your house in Tuscany. Yes. I will also be in Tuscany.
Great. We'll be neighbors. Yes.
I'm thinking like 45 minutes outside of Siena or Florence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. Lots of great wine.
Yes, for sure.
Towns, Lucca, Todi, San Gimignano. I'm saying that's where we're going. But now I've just lost my train of thought about
we're in Italy and wine.
I know.
You were drunk already, right?
I was already. No, actually, I'm not drinking for the year, so that's what the problem is.
Right.
But I totally forgot what I was going to say. God, that's a new word retrieval problems. I got too excited.
Yes, exactly. Well, you start talking about Italy, and then it was,
And then, exactly. I can't wait to get there. But I would, back to wires, I have a doorway that I need to cut into here.
Right.
And I'm not going to do it because I think that there are wires there, and I'm too scared to do it. But when those problems happen on job sites, like, I don't think that the people we work for realize that, like, we pay for all of that. Like, they cannot know about it. We're paying for it. We're making it right. Like,
and the thing is, the client doesn't even know it.
Yeah,
the client has no idea. If they're listening now, they know, but they never hear about it. Oh,
you mean Nantucket doesn't know you cut that doorway?
Yeah. It was done and reshingled before they arrived. So it was just like, they have no clue.
You were just a machine.
I have flown up upholsterers for the same job. I had to fly a guy up from New York because the sofa that was supposed to be made with the legs removable, whatever, wasn't made with the legs removable. And, you know, if you have done any work on Nantucket, you know, like the month leading up to any day is like, there's no one on the island that can do anything. So they're like, yeah, we'll be able to get that thing in September or something. It's like, no. So I had to fly people up from New York to take this sofa apart, get it in, and reassemble it and stitch it back up.
Yeah.
On my dime. Right.
Yeah.
But it's in there.
And you'll never make that mistake again. Ever.
Well, I mean, that wasn't a mistake to be made. It was designed to have removable legs. The legs, you know.
I know, but I mean, like, you'll become that crazy paranoiac who goes in and checks that the legs are indeed unscrewable.
For sure.
Okay, so I don't want to just focus on like the horrors that happen. I want to hear what your best project has been, not in terms of beauty, because obviously all of your projects are beautiful, but what has been the most recent project where you just felt transported and like affirmed in your choice of profession?
I would say your best love is always the last love. So I just finished this one at 220 and it's fabulous.
That building is beautiful, and Terry Despont did a fabulous job.
Yeah.
That lobby is...
The lobby's fabulous. It's a lot of color. There's a lot of, and her directive to me was that she wanted to push me in a way that I'd never really had before. So it's definitely more, maybe.
that could be a very alarming thing to hear from a client.
Well, and it has to be better than.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, she just says, I just want to see something you've never done before. I want to see something new and exciting and whatever. And so that allowed me the freedom to bring in, J.J. Snyder did this amazing lacquer sort of, I think it's called like resist lacquer, which is sort of like a decorative finish underneath, and then it's lacquered on top, so it has depth and so I was able to do these really like beautiful specialized finishes, and coloration and just like really fun, beautiful things. And so, but now I'm like, okay, now this beach house I'm conceptualizing now.
You gotta shake yourself up.
I want to get rid of all of that color because I just, did. But it was fun. It was a beautiful project in a beautiful location.
Do you retire certain patterns once you've used them? If I use a fabric that is very distinct in a person's bedroom in a significant way, then I kind of feel like I've got to let it lie fallow for a couple of years before I revisit.
Yes, at least in the same colorway and all of that. But I love a hand printed linen. That's my thing, and especially like those ladies that are printing it themselves, like Lake August or Radish Moon and all of those. So. And there you can get around, like, hey, give it to me in a different colorway or something like that. But if it's been significantly featured, then it's kind of done. For instance, the primary bedroom in 220 is wrapped in a pale blue moire. So the walls, the curtains, everything
are alive.
So I would probably
it's the light in there. It must glow.
So it's
like a diamond.
It's so beautiful to see. And then you sometimes capture the moire, and then at certain angles you don't, and it's like, what's happening here? So something like that is done, right? So I've draped an entire room in it. I could never do that again for someone else.
Yeah.
Right.
I totally feel the same way. It almost feels like you're cheating.
Yeah, a little bit. And I want to challenge myself as a creative. I want to see what's new and exciting and what's out there right now. I mean, what I chose 3 years ago.
Totally. It's like going to a marketplace.
Right. Yeah.
What's fresh?
Exactly. So
I speak to a lot of design students and frequently hear them ask about developing a trademark style. And your last answer, it's like you're best off if you can't be pigeonholed.
Yeah.
And it's a fine line.
It is.
Because you want people to find you because there's something that you are bringing.
Right.
that others aren't, but you
Yeah.
don't want it to be duplicatable. I feel like there's a whole originality in decorating. Is just a very fecund topic. You know, like, do you want to be original just to be original, or is it original because you don't want to have, you know, done something twice, or you know, it's.
Well, it's certainly a lot more work, right, to reinvent the wheel. You know, if you had a signature look or a signature, you know, sort of thing, it's a lot easier to plug those into each project and sort of move along.
Right, like as a signature. But who wants that?
But people do. I mean, there are people out there who have
right.
signature looks that are quite successful, you know?
Well, and what you said, the one book that you would save if your house were on fire was Givenchy style.
Yes.
And when I think of, you know, certainly you and that also dovetails into our age group, because that sale happened at Christie's. And any of us who were not aware of his incredible interiors became aware.
Right.
You know, I can totally tell a room that Givenchy owned, but they're not identical.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like that's even weirder. That's an even harder thing for our clients to express their taste through our hand.
Yeah, I think it's more us distilling their wants and desires, but through our own sensibility. And honestly, people who are not trained in our profession don't really know or can't truly articulate exactly what it is that they want, right? You can get pictures and all of that, but for me, it's
they don't have enough data.
Correct. They don't have enough. Just like I couldn't tell you which stock to purchase tomorrow. You know, it's not where I spend my time and my energy, right? Exactly. Life would be a whole lot easier if I had a passion for hedge funds.
I would be such a great, obscenely rich person.
Yes. Yeah.
Just saying.
Same. I mean, I would hire you. You could do the house in, you know, in Florence for me.
Okay. Will do.
Yeah. But alas, that was not the case.
Yeah, that was not the case.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So you said you guys have a house in Italy.
Lago di Garda.
I assume, is it yours or is it the family house?
I married into the house. Yes.
Okay. Have you gotten to decorate it?
Here and there. We're going to tackle that more now, I think, because we're going to probably try to spend a little bit more time there. We used to spend every month of August there when we lived in New York. But yeah, it's in Minerva del Garda, which is, so Garda Lake is between Milan and Venice. So if you've ever taken the train like to Verona or, you know, so you'll come into a port town called Desenzano, which is the southern part of the lake. And then from there, we're about 35 minutes up the coast in Minerva. And
who else of his family comes to the house?
His mother also lives in another part.
Is she? Does she have style?
Oh, of course. Italians always have style. Yeah.
But I mean, so because it can't be easy when you're the spouse who's in design going to the family house and you've been like, oh my God, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Yeah. But then you've got to tread so carefully.
Yes, you do. You do. And that's why I say it's a slow moving process, but it will. Yeah. And they're understanding more and more now of what I can bring to it. But there's so many great things in the house already that I was like, ooh, that would look perfect over here, or we can move that upstairs, and, you know, just like
so a rejiggering. Yeah.
A rejiggering and maybe some fresh, you know, colors.
Yeah. Let's hope your mother-in-law doesn't ever see this. I doubt she will.
Who's he?
What are some projects that you haven't worked on yet that you must work on?
I want to do.
And that could be a product. It could be anything.
Oh, well, product for sure. I would love to get into that. I just don't really know how. You know, I started developing a fabric line at some point, but the problem is I have a bit of a historic mind, so everything I come up with, I'm like, oh, this is so reminiscent of Angelo D'Anglia from like 77. And so I was so But then you can't think that way because design is inspired by everything, right?
Yeah, well, that goes back to the originality. It's like a huge concern.
Yeah.
You know, you want to put out a product that's beautiful enough use, but you don't want to exactly duplicate.
Exactly.
And then you don't know where you got your inspiration. That's actually a huge problem.
Right.
Because you're like, did I dream that up or did I see that?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Is this derivative or is this original?
Yeah.
I don't know anymore. So I would
yeah.
definitely love some of that. You know, doing some product would be interesting. I'd love any tips you might have on how that happens.
Sure.
And then, of course, I want to do a house in Italy. I just want to, you know, a big sort of like Tuscan farmhouse.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm trying to get every decorator I know to say they want to do a hotel, and I want us all to get different rooms. And this is my big fantasy because, you know, when I wouldn't want to stay in my room, I'd want to stay in your room. I'd want to, you know, I want some major metropolis where every room is its own destination.
Right. So it's like Kips Bay, the hotel.
Kips Bay, the hotel. Totally.
Like reality television show.
Well, here we are, ready to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I love the idea of a hotel, and I've never done it, and I just think it would be an interesting about face because who are you working for?
Yeah.
And how do you make it soulless when it's or soulful and not soulless?
Right.
When it's not, when you don't know who's living there.
Yeah, I think you have to just create the person. Right? You have to sort of...
Do you do that for show houses?
A little bit. The last one, I just did the 2020 Kips Bay in Palm Beach. And that one was purely for me. I talked to Sophie before I did it, and I was like, what can, you know, give me some tips. She said, you can either do it for the client you think you want to capture, or you can do it for yourself. And I was like, well, I want to do it for me. You know, and so I really wanted to push myself there. And so I really blew it up with the scale and coloration and all of that. So, yeah, that was fun. So I pushed myself in that regard. And so I was kind of the client.
And do you give yourself that importance at home? Or were you more stylish when you knew you had to come up with a look, that it was going to be performance?
Oh, yeah, of course. It was more, I mean, we thought of it in a 360-degree sort of way. You know, my husband curated even a essential oil that we diffused into the room because of the scent that he wanted. And we had playlists of music and, you know, so it was a little bit, it was not structured, it's not the right word, but it was definitely more theatrical.
Performance. Yeah.
Right. Well, here I live in my house every day, right? I'm not standing in a corner just greeting people.
But do you have any rooms or any spaces where you really went for it, but you know that means you're going to have to change it sooner than the others? Like sometimes these big gestures date themselves, and I'm kind of cautiously watching my apartment. You know, and obviously we like to muck around with our interiors.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm just trying to gauge which of these spaces is gonna die.
Yeah.
Know, like, who's dying first?
Do they die naturally, or do you tire of them and move on? See, that's the thing. It's I
tire of them and move on.
Yes, exactly.
And I scorn them.
Right, but it's a laboratory. It's a laboratory for me to do what I want to do, and things that if clients have shot down in the past, I'm like, ooh, I want to try that. I want to exercise that anyways. I want to see what that's like. Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm not sure I understand this question. Could you talk about your experience working with clients and projects from afar using the expert, but that's capitalized? What's the expert?
Okay, so the expert it's a new platform that yeah. I'm shocked you weren't asked to be on it. It is basically video conferencing with notable interior designers such as myself. There's an upstart by the name of like Martin Lawrence Bullard and all these other upstarts that are.
I do know what you're talking about, and you give an hourly rate.
Correct. And then, right. So it's just another way. What I'm finding through the expert is people are really afraid to make mistakes. Really, you know, homeowners that aren't being guided by designers. So this helps them if they're
So it's a consult.
It's a consult only. So
and
it's
do
an
you
hourly...
ever speak to them again, or that's it?
I'm sorry?
Do you ever speak to them again?
I have one client who has booked me every week since it started.
Wow.
Yeah, and I do have some return, you know, so she wanted to systematically go through her house and say like, okay, what's not working here and what can I do to make it work? And then, so we're just moving through her house and doing that and getting, and the beauty is that...
Is there performance anxiety? Like, oh shit, I've got to crack the code of this, like
a little bit, and yes, there's a little bit of that. And I have to give them suggestions on where they can purchase things, where I can't say like, oh, go to Fortuny and get this, or Studio 4 will just weave you up a nice little rug, you know, those kinds of things. So you have to kind of get out of your designer hat, if you will, and get more into sort of, you know, a deal. But it's fantastic. It's a really great service for people, and they're doing really well. And so it's interesting. So I do about 2 or 3 a week right now of those.
McCurdy SP, yes, we're all afraid of making expensive mistakes.
Yeah.
But there's something about it being your own space that blocks people.
Yes.
Because you're so caught in fear and trepidation that you can't figure it out.
Right. Exactly.
And I do think we are useful in that regard, because there are some things that are emphatic that we know are going to be perfect.
Yeah. Well, I had one woman, it's like we went through her list and like boom, boom, boom. And she's like, oh my God, you know, I did it in like 40 minutes. She's like, you're so quick. I said, I've been doing this for 20 years. So of course, you know, and there is no gray area. It's like, you should do this and this is the answer, right? Yeah. So, and I think too, people who aren't hiring designers take counsel from too many people. So if they're not hiring me, then they're talking to their girlfriend and their mother-in-law and everyone else about what they think that they should do. Well, it's your home, and it's your it should reflect you, not your cousin or so.
Well, then we have to analyze: is this they speaking? With a marionette, but right. I dread the sister-in-law just on principle. You know she's coming over and she's not gonna like that pillow.
No, exactly. Like, because her favorite color is green and I did blue, right? Like, well,
totally. There's a meme running around Instagram of a horse that's like beautifully drawn head and mane, and then it turns into this stick figure. And it's like when your client asks you to continue what you're doing, but with a lot less expensive.
Yes, exactly.
That's what the sister-in-law brings.
Yeah. For sure. So I always try to advise clients about, don't take counsel from other people. Just sit with it. And you know in your heart if something feels right to you or if it doesn't. You just have to tap into that. That. And
it's like a romance. It's like dating somebody. You can't listen to, they don't get introduced to everybody till you know what your opinion is.
Exactly.
I bet, you know, like I have a bunch of clients who have had kids, and I've had the great honor of working for their kids. And you were saying you have lots of repeat clients. That is kind of the most fun, because you can do different things for them in different places if they're game.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's go for it. This is an apartment. Or...
Right. Like I just did this little cottage in Nantucket that is from an old client of mine. And because we have this history, and I know that I said, okay, I don't want to do a single solid anywhere. Everything is going to be a print. Let's just do, you know, and we just went for it. But I think that would be hard to convince someone who is new to me or new to my madness that, you know, so.
Or it's their only home, and maybe it's overload if it's a primary residence. Or
You'll see it, and it's coming in House Beautiful. I think maybe next issue or the following one this summer. But it was fun. I'm sorry.
I said I can't wait.
Oh, yeah.
The design books are just, I feel like there's so many more in this day and age, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
Because it's not enough to see it on Instagram. I've got to see that photograph, even though I go like this to photographs.
The first time I tried that, someone was looking at me. I did it a few times, like before I realized I was actually looking at something in print.
I was on a Swiss Air flight, and I was clunk, clunk, clunk at the screen.
Right.
And the flight attendant came over, and she said, are you American?
Yeah,
American.
Right.
And she said, that's not a touch screen. I was like,
yeah, excuse me, lady. Right.
She's like, oh, you poor stupid American.
For sure.
But I do like that idea of the expert for us. It's a way for us to become modern.
Yeah. It's nice, and you get to meet different people, and you get to really help people with their issues in their most intimate part of their home. It's nice,
So somebody wants to know, have you found it difficult to dissuade a client from choices that will simply not bring the client to their vision?
It's a challenge, but at the end of the day, it's their house. So
right. I feel that too.
You have to, am I going to challenge you at first? Yes. If you bring it up again, I might try to challenge you again. The third time, whatever. I worked for Celeste Cooper, and she would always say, there's a certain time you have to change lanes and keep Celeste Cooper.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there's a certain point where you need to learn to change lanes and keep moving. And so that is that moment. Like, okay, I did a project at 860 UN Plaza, which is all glass. They did not want curtains. They did not want anything. And so what could I do? I said, I'm just going to tell you right now, your living room will never have a cozy sort of feeling because we don't have that additional,
tactile warmth.
Right. So as long as going in that when you walk in here and you feel that there's something missing, that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And, and of course then half their art started fading and everything else because, so, but at the end of the day.
I hope it wasn't the good half.
No, it wasn't the good art. At the end of the day, it's their house. So you can lead the horse to water, but if the horse doesn't want to drink, there's nothing you can do to make him drink. You just have to do your job, give them the best that you can within their vision, and keep moving.
What has been the most rewarding thing to happen to you over COVID?
Having recently relocated to Los Angeles, where I have outdoor space and all of that. Yeah. So we moved in December of 2018.
Were you just like your eyes popping when you were seeing what was happening in New York?
Oh, yeah. And we were in a tiny apartment, New York apartments. So I was happy that I live in a house. I could go outside. I have my own space. Like I had my own bubble that also included outdoor space, and I could get in my car. We could drive around, or we could walk the beach. And that maybe I don't need to be at every site meeting all the time because projects still got done, right? Yeah. With me through this power of, video and so forth.
Yeah.
So
that's like the most exciting thing that's happened for sure is knowing that we can
do it.
Prevail.
Yeah. And the pace, because, it made everyone slow down. And I think I had just come back from Kips Bay. I got back like the first week of March.
You needed a nap.
I needed a nap, and the world gave me a very long nap. Yeah.
So I will leave you then, well rested. And when are you coming to New York?
I'm starting a new project in the old police headquarters down in Nolita. Yeah, is it 240 Center? Actually, a
I
child.
just know that it's center. I just know that whenever I was on jury duty, I had to walk past it.
Yeah. Center Street. So I'll probably be back there within the next month. Yeah.
And when do you think you're coming out with the book?
Interesting. That is not in the works, but in here. I had someone come up.
Start thinking.
Yeah, it seems, I've been talking to
it.
people who've done it. It seems overwhelming, but I'm kind of up for the challenge. And
you have to. It's a way to, you have to, because you have people like me who want to see what you're doing and like
Right.
get ideas and just eat it. But it's also like, to look how fast time has flown. Look at like just coronavirus. We have to do these things that celebrate a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to note it and to celebrate it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Someone gave me a great idea for my book that I'm now is really getting it. So now it's just pulling it together and I guess financing it. And I don't know. There's a lot.
I will call you later.
Please do.
No. I will. All right. Lots of love. Thank you so
much fun. Thank you.
Can't wait to see you in person.
Likewise. Thanks again. All right.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye now. Thanks everyone for watching.